keep it very surface level, right? But if you say the surface level response to them and then ask like, what's the deeper level? You start off with an event. So I'm going to show you guys what we did because the numbers don't lie. I went to pull up my sales call, and before I even pressed play, they started laughing at me. And the only reason that they're able to stay in business is because clients know that they're going to personally get to work with them. If they left, the business would be gone. This is what I'm getting and this is what I'm paying for, not I'm paying this and I'm achieving this dream outcome. Hey guys, Dylan here and welcome back to another video. As always, grateful to have you guys here. And if you don't know who I am, I'm the next Alex Ramosi wannabe with my nose strip on. So I come onto YouTube and I tell you guys what you guys think you should do because I feel like I'm better than you. All jokes aside, other than that, I've been in the agency space for about 6 years now. I just recently publicly took an agency from 0 to 45K a month. And the reason I share that with you is because in this video, I'm going to share the exact sales process that we use in order to make that happen. I go through the real life script that we use and I break it down step by step so you guys can apply this to your own agency, because selfishly, I only post content on here to make money, and my selfish goal is to one day buy a sports team with my entire community. So if that's of interest to you, click the link below. You can get involved with this community. I do partner with some guys as well. You can check that out because yeah, I do post content here to try and take you guys' money so we can all buy a sports team one day. So with that, I'm going to jump into the masterclass now. It's a full live recording masterclass. Sit back, grab a pen and paper out, take notes because this could revolutionize your sales process. Today, I want to, in a very casual manner, it's not going to be as structured. It's not going to be just me blabbling on like the last masterclass was. I'm going to show you guys the exact sales script, exact sales process, and everything that we did to close for broker deal slash mortgage AI. Now, I do have a couple disclaimer for y'all right off the bat. Did I use this script? No, I fucking did not use the script because I personally, I hate scripts. I don't use scripts personally. That being said, the closers on our team use the script and everybody else use the script. Now, since I got Mortgage AI acquired and kind of stepped down from that position, they don't currently use this sales process anymore. Now, there's two sides to that. Yes, like as we all saw, like especially Omar, you and I both saw, the second we jumped off of this, closing rate went down, right? But that's not a knock on anybody else because they build an agency to 300K a month, and so they're using their own sales process that works for them. I can only say that in the last in the 6 weeks that we were using this, and then as soon as we stopped using this, our numbers went down. So I'm going to show you guys what we did because, in my opinion, with the numbers don't lie, and if you check any of the spreadsheets, the closer KPI sheets, this fucking process worked better than the 300K a month agencies process. That being said, I'm going to pull up the script. I'm going to go through, kind of breaking down each section of it. And I want this to be very like open discussion. I don't want this to just be like me rambling the whole time. So you guys can get the most amount of value out of it. We don't need to look at BC Services card anymore. Anyways. Okay. So couple things right off the bat, right? And I know I know we've talked about this in RC a lot, but I some of you guys may be a little bit newer around here, and maybe you guys we haven't gone down the rabbit hole like this. But I basically have I have a Notion asset too that I can pull up because this is like really where the call starts. And the story behind this is I was visiting my friends downtown, and I got this group of friends downtown, and they all live in this like insanely rich person building. They're all 21 to 23 years old. And everybody does anywhere between like 50 to one guy does over $1 million a month. And I hang out with them like every weekend. They're like super cool and chill guys. But anyways, while we were in the thick of it, scaling broker deals, I found myself, we were in a bit of a dry spell. We went like a couple days or like a week, which I know that might not sound like a dry spell, but with the sheer volume of appointments that we were booking because we didn't close anybody in like 3 or 4 days, I considered it a dry spell. And I went to them and I was like, hey, we're not closing as many deals as I would like to. Can you help me out? Right. And they said, sure, well, let's review one of your sales calls. And then I went to pull up my sales call. And before I even pressed play, they started laughing at me. And I was like, I didn't get it. Right. And they were like, well, Dylan, they're like, no fucking shit, you're not closing any deals. And I'm like, what do you mean? And then basically said, look at your closer. And then they said, look at my closer. Right. And at first I didn't get it, but then like they basically pulled, one of the closers that we had at the time up on one screen. and then they pulled their closer up on their screen, and it was like completely different, right? Like their closer was like clean cut, well dressed, in a nicely lit room. He had a nice office, good background, like all this kind of stuff. And then my closer at the time was taking calls from his bedroom, kind of like Julian right now, right? And then that was when I first realized that, like, before you even hop on the call, and like, Adine, are you here?
Yeah, yeah, I am.
Okay, can you turn your camera on real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any like content of like your setup before?
Yeah, I do.
Like, okay, I don't know if you guys have seen Adine in like his old setup, but like literally, I remember when we talked about this, like, see how he looks right now? Automatically, no matter what he says, no matter what he does, he's going to close more deals than the old version of him that was sitting there with his uh mat or shitty webcam looking
I
like
did
he
have a
was
bad
like a
webcam, right?
Minecraft character, right? And so one of the things that here I have a little Notion asset that I can kind of walk you guys through here that I set up here. So it's set up to sell it, I basically call it. And this was like the team meeting that we had one day. And I was like, guys, right after it was like the next Sunday, I was like, who would you rather give $4,800 to? Don't matter what they say, don't matter the offer they make, don't matter what the trust is, who would you rather give $4,800 to? Right? And this was me. This is how I took my sales calls. This was my closer at the time. Right. And that's why it's like the first part of the sales process is like before you even get into like any of that stuff is like look the part, like look like somebody who's ready to close. Like everybody on this call right now is more than capable of even like a Dean, and I know Asa as well too, like simple like moving your desk to like face a different wall in like the bedroom, right? Or like simply like buying a ring light. Like here are the what is it? 5 things that you guys can do, and I put them in order of importance. So number one is having a good location, right? And now if you are stuck in your room, because I understand, like I was there too, like I get it. Just make sure it's like a wall behind you. I did like this weird thing when I used to like work in my room where I basically like I had like this closet and I like put the desk so like behind me was the closet, and then I took all my clothes out of the closet and put it in like a dresser. So I had like an empty. It wasn't like a walk-in closet, but I had like an empty closet, and then it actually looked like an office. The second thing is the ring light. Literally the best $20 investment that you can make. Mine just burnt out right now, but you can find them for $20 on Amazon or anything like that. Upgraded camera option A is obviously having like a professional DSLR. Like that's what I got set up right now. I don't know if Daniel's on this call. Daniel's got like a ridiculously high quality one too. Option B is connecting your iPhone. So like another thing that you guys can do is you can we got people jumping in here. Oh, here's Daniel. We got people jumping in here. One sec here. If you go like I don't know if you guys have you guys ever seen that where you can like connect your iPhone to Zoom? You literally just go into the video, and if you have like your iPhone camera set up, you can like change it to like that. Right. And that's better than 99% of webcams already. Right. And just these simple tweaks, which you compare this to this. Right. So that's the second thing. And then the last one is like you can get an upgraded webcam. I don't think it looks the best, but I mean it does work. It does work. And then let me go back to my share screen here. The next thing here is background lighting. So as you guys have probably seen a lot of this, like this was literally like $40 on Amazon. It's literally just like a white light that comes with like this. I have another one that's like blue. Makes me look like Iman Godzi, or at least I try and act like Iman Godzi. Literally cost $40. You put them, you basically set them up. So you have like your camera like this, your ring light like right behind your camera, and then you have the two accent lights at like this angle behind you coming back, and it kind of gives you like that full rounded shadow. And then the last one is if you guys are like stuck in a corner or something like that, you guys can like this is like a piece of paper. I don't know if you guys knew that, right? This is literally a piece of paper. As you can see, it's just like a piece of paper. I'm hanging it up with thumbtacks, right? And it cost me $20 off Amazon. Right. So these simple changes that you guys can make right now to your setup is the first lever to pull in sales. And the second thing is like how to become someone who people trust. It's like getting in shape is obviously like, getting in shape. Like this is what I told the guys on my team. It's like get in shape, like shoulders and arms are like the biggest lever that you can pull. Um, clean cut. The simple like litmus test is like, would my mom approve of how I look? Right now, here's the thing, and same with like nice clothes. It's like you don't need to be expensive. Well, this isn't an RC hoodie, but like there's like a $30 flannel. Like I don't wear expensive clothes. Polos, basic fitted t-shirts. Another good rule of thumb here is like fit your niche, right? So if you're in like gyms, like keep it a little bit more casual. If you're working with like lawyers, then obviously, maybe dress a little bit more. Now, is all of this needed to close? No, you don't have to do any of this, right? Like Alex knows a guy who is like fully tatted head to toe and he makes like $4 or $5 million a year. He's in sales. It's like fully tatted head to toe and he like takes sales calls from his phone. You don't need to do any of this, but it's going to increase your leverage because you're going to close more people with the same amount of skill that you guys currently have. You will close more people by doing this. Okay. So I wanted to take a minute to go into that because that's like the first lever to pull when it comes with sale. Julian, you're asking about optimum ability, guys. Feel free to guys cut me off too as well. Like I don't want to just be the only one talking here. It's like meant to be a collaborative thing. Julian, are you here? Going once, going twice.
Yes, I am. I am. Yeah, the guys that in the $1 million, the guys that are in that tower downtown or whatever. I was curious.
Oh, well, optimum ability is all their clients. Right? Like it's all
Wow.
optimum ability's clients. Like that's how I got invited into the network.
There was a sales closer coach in like Serge's program. He said that like having your camera to the side and like doing too much with your stuff is making it look too professional, and that can kind of like ruin the frame as well. So like, what's your thoughts about that? He said just to use the MacBook like webcam and make it look like you're just a regular t-shirt and stuff. Like, so what's your
I mean,
opinion?
everybody's gonna have their like that's one thing that's like great about business, and that's part of the reason why it's so fun. It's like and that's the other thing too. I want to like preface with like anytime I do a masterclass, a YouTube content, like anytime you see anything from mine, I am telling you guys that based on my experience, based on what I've done, based on my accomplishments, based on the people I know, the best thing that works for me and the people that I speak to closely. Right now, I have my own. I jumped on a call with Serge, and quite honestly, I thought it was like the worst sales process like in the history of. Out of all the programs that I've jumped on, it was like the worst sales process I've ever met. Because I basically jumped on a call with him, and I'm like, hey, I'm looking help to build my YouTube and build a Discord community. And then like the guy was telling me that I needed to like pay a bunch of $3 VAs to like do like cold DM outreach. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm trying to build like my YouTube channel. And like they just never listened to what we actually had to say. And so yeah, like I mean, this is like anything that I share with you guys is like what works for me best. Like, obviously Surge, they're gonna have their own input. You talk to Joel, he's gonna say something different. You talk to Charlie Morgan. Like, do you know what Charlie Morgan tells people to do? Camera off.
Yep. I was in his program. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
Charlie
no
Morgan's
camera.
like camera off.
Yep.
Right? Now I find it a lot harder to build trust with people, especially if they're not coming from inbound. If you cold DM somebody, get on a call with them, and then don't even show your face on the call, I find it hard to then convince the guy that you should also give him $5,000 when they don't even know what you look like. Right? This is what works best for me. But yeah. Anybody else got anything about this? Dean, like what's your experience been since making this?
Well, I started implementing all this. It's been a lot better, to be honest. When I first started taking sales calls, I was, man, when I first started taking sales calls, I was like talking to people about this is what ads look like, this when they don't give a shit about any of that. They just care that you can kind of help them get their kids in college or whatever. So I had to kind of shift my focus on how I took sales calls. And yeah, like kind of like Dylan said, the intro is the most important part. So having a good like introduction to yourself and kind of making the person laugh and having good spirits in the beginning is a great way to set the tone of the call.
Yeah. Sweet. So I'll move on to the next phase here. And now the next thing I have here is connect with small talk. And I have two asterisks beside it. And the reason I have two asterisks beside it is because it's kind of like, or I'm trying to think of a stupid basketball analogy, but I can't think of one. You only want to do this when it's going to be a slam dunk. Because it's like in basketball, when you like go for the slam dunk, but then you like miss the slam dunk, then you just look, then it just like, you just look god awful. Right. And so what I mean by that is like, let's say you hop on a call with somebody. Let's say you hop on a call with me. Let's see what it looked like. Okay. Maybe you've read the book Good to Great before. Okay. Then you're like, I can instantly connect on somebody who's read the same book with me and probably has a lot of the same business philosophies as me. Right. But if you don't want to, like, the mistake that when I first introduced this to my sales team that they ended up making was they used it for everybody regardless of what the thing was. Right. And they would jump on like a call with like a dean and say like, hey man, like, nice beard. And it was just like super weird and awkward. And just like, it was so obvious that they were like trying to build rapport and it just like hurt them. Right. So I say only do this if it is going to be a slam dunk. And then I took this actually from, I forget what it was, but it was actually like a small, it was actually a relationship coach, right? Of like a simple framework that you can use. I found it on YouTube. It was like a simple framework that you can use in order to instantly connect with people and avoid that awkward small talk phase, which is what most people do when they open up a sales call. And then starting with a compliment, you know, maybe it's a book, maybe it's a physical feature, maybe what that after a compliment, you know, that reminds me of. Right. And the reason why it's like you say that reminds me of is to tie it into an actual personal story about yourself, humanizes you a little bit, and then also shows that you didn't just randomly say, hey, I like that book, or hey, I like your beard, because to just try and build rapport. Right. Where are you from? Now that's like the normal question. How you spice that up a bit is you ask why, right? Gets them to start talking about themselves a little bit more, and it really just opens up like another side of, right? Like there's the psychological benefit of it, where it's like when you start like, where are you from? Like why? And they start opening up about like where they're from, why they chose where they're from. They're gonna be more likely to then open up about why they want more closed and funded loans, why they want more solar installations, why they want more pressure washing jobs, whatever that may be. Another one here is you ask like why, insert your niche. Not how long did you get started? Like those are all the basic questions, right? Like, so why did you decide to become a mortgage officer, a loan officer, whatever that case may be? Laughing easily, and then mirroring the last 3 or 4 words that they say are all good ways to subconsciously start off a call. That being said, once you get through the first, actually, any questions about that off the bat here? Yes, no, that was pretty straightforward. It also works for chicks at the bar too, if you guys want to use it there. Anyways, taking control of the call. I have an hour blocked off my calendar. Are you good to jump in? I'll tell you what, these calls are pretty short and sweet. Number one, I just want to make sure that I can even help you out. And if it sounds like I can, I'll offer you a game plan of our services. You can let me know if it sounds like a fit, so we can go over as many questions as you'd like. But would you mind if I ask you a couple first? Now, one important thing, and kind of as I go through this entire script, it's everything from like this point on is viewed as like a framework, not as like a what to say. Right. And almost every single time that we had a salesperson that began to struggle or, you know, would go into these slumps, it's like when we would review their calls, like they said exactly this word for word. Right. And no two prospects are the same. Everybody's different. Like using this is like, you know, so basically the gist of it is like telling them that the calls are short and sweet, make sure that you can help you out. And if it sounds like you can, we'll offer you a game plan of our services. Right. So another way you could say this is awesome. Well, you know, this won't take too much time. I just want to make sure that I didn't really see much information on your application there. So I just kind of wanted to make sure that you actually are in a position where you could benefit from, you know, our support. And if you are, I can kind of offer you a little bit of an overview or a custom game plan to what that would look like specifically for your business. Does that sound fair? And then you just get into it, right? So it doesn't matter how you say it, you get a point the same cross. I highly recommend, like, and it's the reason why I don't follow script, because if you just start trying to follow everything word for word, that's a slippery slope. From there, I don't know if you guys saw, I'm actually pretty sick right now, so bear with me here. But we ended up using I got it from Hunter C. Roy. I blended kind of Hunter C. Roy, Jeremy Miner, and Alex Ramosey's closer framework here. So starting by clarifying where they are, where they want to go, why, overviewing their past pain, using verbal pauses. A lot of that comes from J minor. Andreas, I'm sure you have, even additional value that you could probably add to that for this phase here. Labeling them with a problem. And then this is like the biggest thing too. I'll get into that in a little bit. Explaining why they failed in the past and then selling them a new vacation, and then selling them the vacation, going through your pitch deck, dropping relevant case studies, and all that kind of stuff, and then getting through to the end. So that's kind of the overview. Getting in to clarify where they are. So where are they? Where are they wanting to go and why, right? And so a good opener that we used here was, okay, awesome. So we can help you get more closed and funded loans, which is obviously the surface reason as to why you're here, but where you're currently at. And the reason that we say that is because I bet you a lot of guys have been asked like, oh, well, what brought you here? And then they'll say something like, oh, well, I want to get more closed. You said you could get me more closed and funded loans, right? And they keep it very surface level, right? But if you say the surface level response to them and then ask like, what's the deeper level? You start off with an advantage there, because it's almost like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard like the car salesman technique, when a car salesman will walk up to a new prospect and say, oh, are you just looking around, right? Because the most common objection that you get in car sales is, oh, I'm just looking around, right? And so what would happen, like, let's say Asa walked into my car lot, hey, are you just looking around? Asa's like, yeah. Okay, well, what are you looking for, right? And it kind of like bypasses that, the number one objection that you get. And so from there, how long have you been doing this for? Who's your ideal client? Okay, and where are you trying to get to? And what's the biggest challenge, right? Now with that, again, we're not following this word for word. It's at the end of the day, this is the information that we're trying to find out, keeping it natural, keeping it normal. The last thing that I like to do, and my closers, they got really good at it, and this was like a big thing that helped first humanize us, build a lot of trust. And I've talked about this before, but the analogy of like taking your pants off with your prospects is kind of like what I would say. So it's like, they told you where they are, they told you where you want to go, they told you kind of like maybe a surface level why. It's like, okay, so I'm assuming you don't need to get to 50 closed and funded loans every single month, right? Because some people would come in with like a huge team. So it's like, why is your goal set at that, right? But then here's the kicker. Before you let them answer, you get super vulnerable about your own story and you tell them your own why, right? And you basically open up to them to say like, tell them like, maybe it's like you started your business because your dad never believed in you, right? And you tell them that, right? Like, honestly, man, like the reason I'm here is because growing up, my dad never believed in me because my older brother, he was like the most accomplished one. He won all these awards. And, now I'm doing this to, show them that I have, I'm doing this to beat back whatever the story is, right? And then you say, well, oh, okay, well, I guess I went on a little bit of a tangent there, but I mean, like what's your why? Right? And if you open up with your why before asking that, like the difference of like you ask them a why, it's like, oh, so I can retire early, versus like I need to retire early because my parents, they're not doing well financially. Like you will get a whole nother deeper level of why if you simply open up first. So before I move on to overview past pain, do you guys have any questions about this phase right here?
I want Andres' take on this. How do you make your prospects open up about why? Or do you validate this?
I mean, I don't have the same process and framework as Dylan, but at the end of the day, it's just like they just need to trust you. Like all the stuff, like you can do whatever you need to do to get them to trust you. And the way I do it might work. The way Dylan does it might work. Like,
and and I mean, like, exactly, right? Everybody, what this is really using here to gain trust is what's called damaging admissions. When it's basically like you purposely admit flaws about yourself, purposely admit to your shortcomings to make it so that when you do make a claim about yourself, it's so much more believable, right? It's like saying, I'm great at basketball, I'm great at hockey, I'm great at soccer, and I'm great at lacrosse, versus saying, I suck at basketball, I suck at soccer, I suck at lacrosse, but I'm a really good hockey player. The second statement was so much more a lot more believable to somebody I've never met before. And that's basically the process here. But Andreas, continue. Or like, what would you do in this phase here?
So I follow more of like Eli Wild's process now, because ever since I met him, like I'm convinced he's probably like the best salesperson of like all time. He trained Jeremy Miner as well. So like he knows what he's talking about. And so I joined like his programs and stuff, and I follow kind of his process. Um I would say like my stuff is a little bit less tightly scripted. Like I wouldn't necessarily insert like, okay, put your backstory here and stuff like that. It's more like a situational awareness kind of thing.
Oh,
Like you have to realize,
100%.
okay, this person isn't about to open up on this next question. Just from their tonality, their body language, I can tell. And so
Yeah,
then I might put like a story or something and like
100%.
metaphor selling, analogy selling, like all that kind of stuff. But yeah,
100%.
I guess it kind of depends though, because it took me a long time to learn that, and I think you have to have a certain kind of skill to be able to learn that. Versus if you need to train closers, they most likely can't all pick up on that. And
Yeah,
so
and
having
I don't know
those
if you're
around.
here in the beginning of the call, but I prefaced I the first thing I said is I've never used the script once.
Fair enough.
I never personally used the script once
Yeah.
because I always showed up on a call with a notepad. I had it written out. Where are they? Where do they want to go? What pain are they in? What's their problem? Sell them the vacation. And I would just show up with those 5 keys, and then I would just freestyle my calls, right? But yeah, like I couldn't agree with you more. Like what you said there, you said one thing there that was really, really important. Situational awareness. You don't have to open up with your backstory first. But if you feel like this prospect with their body language and their tonality, they're not going to open up with you, then pull that card out, right? If they're already getting emotional at just this phase, you could probably just ask them why, right? And where do we learn that? Like by doing 100 to 200 sales calls, right? Like that's the simplest answer for that. Moving into the next thing here, overviewing past pain, right? Well, let me hear you about what you've tried so we know what did and didn't work. Do you have a system to get new clients? How are you currently getting new clients? So you've been using method for X amount of time. Do you like method? This is straight out of NEPQ. Basically, you figure out like what are they currently doing to get new clients? Why don't they like that? What have they tried in the past? What were all the things that didn't work in the past? Now, one thing that I can tell you guys is like very, very, very important is getting as much information as you can here, right? Because probably the most powerful part of at least this sales process is what happens in this phase right here. But if you don't have enough information from what pain that they're currently in, you can't accurately sell them, like explain to them why they failed in the past, so you can sell them that new opportunity, right? Like if they're like if you didn't get them to reveal everything, and then you're trying to like sell them a new opportunity, but they didn't like tell you like what their actual problems were, they're gonna, oh, I need to think about it, right? And so with that, like anybody got any questions with this phase here, getting into their verbal pauses or getting into their past pain and using those verbal pauses to be very like curious George, inquisitive tonality.
So let's say, for instance, like I have a call and the guy's like, I do referrals. Like I just work off referrals. I'm not doing ads right now, but I'm open to something else. But like referrals are working really well for me. And in whatever time, I could probably see myself getting there, but I don't know yet. It's like
Well, then you don't need this.
fair. Okay.
Like
Yeah.
Well,
then what are you doing here?
So I just learned a different way to do that. Like I have like frameworks on how to do stuff. I mean, you could try that. The way I do it is like, okay, if they're saying referrals is working so well, then you just find their goal. And you're like, okay, what do you feel is like that roadblock slowing you down from hitting that currently?
And then
It's a way of
and
getting
then
the problem.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Like my script, the way I break it down for my closers is like I have one page, which is like, okay, these are each stage, right? This is the information you have to get out of every stage on every single sales call. If not, you're not going to be able to close as effectively as you could. And then it's like, now I go over the real script of like the questions and stuff, and I show them where everything fits into that information they need to get, right? So I'll group like 4 questions together and be like, this is how you're going to find the impact of the problem, right? Now it's like a framework, so you can move around the words, you can do whatever you need to do, but this is like the general framework of how I do that. And so like, for
Okay.
example, for like, if you can't find a problem, like when I used to use Jeremy Miner's, like, hey, what are you doing now? Like, how's that working for you? What do you like about it? Sounds pretty good from that perspective. What would you change, etc. Right? If they were like, oh, it's all going pretty good, I'd be like, oh, awesome. And I guess like it sounds like things are going fairly well. Like, do you
Yeah.
have a goal in mind that you're trying to get to, or have you already hit all your targets? And they'll be like,
Right.
oh, I have this goal. I'll be like, okay, what do you feel is like slowing you down right now from getting there? And now you just found the problem.
I see. Okay. 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 That makes
So
sense.
having like mental frameworks around it's really
All
helpful.
right, right. Appreciate it.
What about else? Who else struggles with this? I have to guess everybody struggles with this. I mean, this is probably like the hardest part of sales. If I had to guess, like this is probably the hardest part of sales. So
I mean, something that I've started doing is like, I know Andres mentioned like framing that when they hit you with that, like I'm just using referrals right now, is like, don't try to overcut what they're saying about referrals, because like they'll be like, well, if I can just get referrals, then I'll just sell. And I don't need your service. But if you can come in at a place like what I did, like my last close, it was like, okay, referrals are working for you right now. Like, are you looking to supplement? Like, what do you think if you supplemented that with our service or whatever it may be, how would that work for you? And they start to see like, oh, like, okay, referrals are great, but like if I could have double the lead
yeah,
flow, this is
We're-
why I was like framing
and
it.
we'll get in down here because I have a whole script about referrals and the problem with referrals. But another thing is too is just like even if referrals are working great, at the end of the day, referrals are extremely hard to get. They're unpredictable, they're unreliable, and they take a long time to build a referral network. On the other hand, you can turn ads and you could turn on ads and have 5 appointments a day by next week. Right? And so also just, helping them understand that, this path of you relying on referrals, it might take a year, right? And if we can use another path to shortcut this in 6 months, right? Let's say the number is 20 grand a month, right? We can shortcut the road to 20K a month in 6 months, right? Well, just by taking that shortcut, you save, what is it, $120,000? Or you make an extra, you're losing $120,000 by waiting an additional 6 months to get there with referrals alone. Right. And this is another, I think, really good analogy and story that I have to share with you guys, especially if we're dealing with prospects who, like a lot of us probably are, right? Because a lot of the companies that are wanting to work with us are typically, they may be established, they may have their shit together and whatnot, but like generally speaking, like they're typically not as developed as like the big players in our space, because the biggest players in their space probably have their own in-house marketing and stuff like that. And so with that, you deal with a lot of the same, or similar types of mindsets. And one of the things that I always get a kick out of is, so, once or twice a month, I'll typically go downtown, to go out with my friends or something like that. And there's 2 methods of getting downtown. Method number 1 is the Uber. Method number 2 is the SkyTrain. Okay. Now, a SkyTrain, for those of you guys that don't, because I don't know if you guys have that, it's basically like a subway, but like above ground. It's like an above ground subway. We'll call it that. Anyways, the SkyTrain is $5 per person. The Uber, you're looking at $35 to $40 total. Okay. So let's say we got 6 people, right? So we're spending total $30 in Uber, right, to get downtown versus a $30 in SkyTrain versus a $40 Uber. Okay. Well, out of the 6 guys in my group, there's 1 guy who insists on taking the Uber every time, and the other 5 insist on taking the SkyTrain. Right. And their logic justified is, oh, we get to save time, or we get to save $10. We all save $10. Right. And so these guys are willing to, take a 20-minute drive to the SkyTrain station, get on the SkyTrain station, do double the amount of commute, right? Then get off the SkyTrain station, then have to go on a 20-minute walk to save $10 fucking. And I have this argument twice a month. So I'm well versed in this argument, right? But the thing is because their mindset, like they don't value their own time. They value money. Right. So if you can flip that on them to show them that all the time that they're wasting, or the time that it's taking them to not get to, 20K in 6 months as opposed to 12 months is actually going to cost them money, an extra 120 grand this year, you're going to have an extra $120,000 less on your income statement because you want to stay in a vehicle that's going to take you 12 months like the SkyTrain, as opposed to one that's going to take you 6 months, i.e. in this world, the Uber, right? And flipping it on them to put it into money perspective was another thing that did massive, did really helped us a lot and really helped me a lot. That was something that I use personally a lot, like just chatting with people, so they can understand that, they might be in the vehicle that they're in might be able to get them to where they want to be. But if they stay in that vehicle and it takes them twice the amount of time, they're actually losing this amount of money.
Yo, can I add something to that?
Yeah.
This might not be relevant for some of you guys, especially with like real estate, unless you're working with like the broker or whatever. But for people like myself, I'm in pain management. So it's like local business. I've heard people say like, oh, we're doing really good from just referrals. But then I transition, kind of ask them like, what are your long-term plans? Or do you plan on selling your business? And if that's the case, then selling it with a system that's generating consistent results, and referrals aren't like super consistent, they're not super predictable.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I positioned it. And people are like, oh shit, yeah, I never really thought about that. So it's like it's positioning their exit, if it's like that's what their long-term plan is, as easier and as a little bit more profitable for them in the long term.
I like you said that, because there's one thing that I think every CEO, founder, owner, or not every, but 90% of CEO, owner, founders secretly want. And it's to be able to become completely removed from the business. Right? And if they're working in XYZ industry, and the only reason that they're able to stay in business is because clients know that they're going to personally get to work with them, if they left, the business would be gone. Right. And so I like what you said there, Vince, because that's another angle that you could take, is like saying like, hey, this is going to be able to get you more business and grow your company regardless of your involvement with it. It's going to be able to remove you from the day-to-day operations. So it actually becomes an asset that you own, where you can choose if you want to work or not, as opposed to, having that expectation from clients that they're going to get to work with you. Sweet. Anyways, labor with a problem. Okay, so it seems like I'm basically just, explaining like exactly what their problem is. Okay. Next part, the most valuable part of the presentation here. So what we did here is like we found the most 4 common vehicles that they tried in the past: Facebook ads, real estate agent referrals, open source leads, and word of mouth. And depending on what they said that they did up in here, right? We explained to them why they failed in the past and why that we're different. And if they did multiple things, we just went through multiple of these scripts, right? So example, Facebook ads. Okay, so you tried Facebook ads in the past and they didn't work. Have you seen Facebook ads work for any other brokers, competitors, or other LOs in your area? If they said no, well, then it's like, I'm sure you've seen some of our case studies. Like, what made you interested in this call if you don't think that they can work? No, I do think they can work, is what they'll always say, right? Or yes, what do you think that they did differently? Right. Then we would say, most LOs say that they're able to generate leads with Facebook. It's just that those leads don't convert. Would you say that's the case? Because every single one of them, oh, I got shitty leads. The leads never picked up the phone. Like the same story over and over again. Okay, well, that makes sense, because do you actually know any like qualified homeowners in your area that doesn't already have an MLO that they'd work with? Prospect will say no. Exactly. 98% of people who have their life together already have an MLO that they'd work with, which is why most MLOs are reliant on word of mouth or realtors. And the last time when you ran generic Facebook ads, all you got was unqualified people. Well, there was one loophole: the people that are about to move into your area. Every year, there's tens of thousands of families who are moving into city that have no prior LO connections and need a loan ASAP and have the funds to make it happen. If we were able to virtually introduce you to and have you shake hands with every new family and individual that is about to move into your area, do you think we could possibly insert the goal that they got earlier? Right. So what this was just a unique selling angle that we took, and it's what we did with our service delivery, of like targeting people that were like newly moved or about to move into that city name. Right. And we explained to them like, yeah, no shit, you ran a generic Facebook ad. Everybody who has their life together and has the money to buy a house probably already knows an MLO. Right. The same with like real estate, right? Like everybody, like my aunt's a realtor. I got like 4 friends that are real estate agents. Like, if I was to, when if I'm doing a real estate transaction, I'm not going on to fucking Facebook and finding some rando that, right? Like I'm probably going to somebody that I already know. And most people that like have their life together the same way So we'd explain that to them and then show them the new opportunity. Referrals. So we have realtors that hand you referrals, which keeps the lights on, except I'm assuming you have no control over how much your business goes as you're reliant on them, correct? Okay, and I'm assuming it took you a while to build up these connections in the first place. Okay, so if we could free you from ever needing to rely on realtors ever again, so you can build your business regardless if your realtor partners are doing well or not, and we could do so in the next 180 days as opposed to waiting the number of years that they've been in business, would that be of interest? Right. And so one of the things that we did here, and I know a lot of you guys deal with referrals, is if they've like, I've been in business for 7 years and I have, I do about 3 loans per month based on my referral network. Mathematically, if you want to get to 6 loans per month, which you say you want to do, it's going to take you 14 years. It's going to take you another 7 years, right? Or we could turn on ads and do it next month. Okay. Open source leads, got it. So you tried open source leads, you got leads that didn't convert, correct? Well, you had to compete with other LOs, and open source leads is like basically like a cold calling list that they will like pay for. You had to compete with LOs to contact the leads that you pay for. You didn't have anyone filter out the low quality leads for you. They weren't pre-qualified. And even if you did get in contact with them, the leads didn't know, like, or trust you, so it was a tough sell, correct? Okay, well, if the leads were exclusive to you, all the low quality leads were filtered out for you, people picked up the phone, and when you spoke to them, they were pre-qualified. In addition to the fact that they already knew, liked, and trusted you to do business with them, could you succeed then? Yes. Okay, so you've been growing through word of mouth, which is actually how we got started, and shows me you're the real deal. But I'm assuming you have no control of when new business comes your way then. And then you basically say the same thing as you would say on the realtor referral ones here. So do you guys have any questions with this here?
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah.
So this is for something if they tried in the past and it didn't work. What if what they're doing in the past is working fine, but they want to do more? For example, with door knocking, that's kind of that's the one I get all the time, right? They're doing the door knocking and it's working, but they just want to get more leads and more appointments.
Well, that's what we already said. Like, what's your goal?
The problem with door knocking is it's incredibly tough to scale.
Yeah, and it takes time.
Okay.
It's the same thing.
So that's when you can talk. It's awesome. You did door knocking and it works, but like the problem is like how hard it is to scale it. Right? Every time you want to scale it, you gotta hire a new rep, you gotta rely on them to be in like all that kind of stuff. Right? Well, what if, as opposed to going through all that to hire a new rep, you just like added $20 a day to your ad spend?
Yo, there we go. Okay, cool.
That's what I mean, right? Like that, and that's how you position it. So yeah, and then at the end of that, we would drop a relevant case study. Okay, well, you remind me of blah, blah, da, 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 da. Okay, with that in mind, I have 100% conviction in our ability to help you get to the goal. Do the same thing as we did for case study. I'd like to show you how the system can be tailored to your business. Pull up a pitch deck. Before I pull up the pitch deck, you have another 20 minutes. Pull up the pitch deck. Going through the slides here. So let's see if this slide one's still active. Okay, so what I would do is I would go through and I would say, like, the first one, I would be like, slide number 1. I didn't want to like increase sales pressure. Like what I noticed is in the beginning, we would like increase sales pressure by saying like, here's how we da 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 da, right? And it'd be like, oh shit, I'm getting pitched. Like, let me put on my sales guard. So what we said now is like this screen would be like fully shared. They'd be like, can you see this? They'd be like, yes. Then be like, awesome. Then we go to the next slide. Right. So they read it, they know what we do, but it's just like a subtle thing that like continues with that lower sales pressure, because you're not jumping on and saying, oh, can you see this? Da, 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 da. Or, oh, here's how we, whatever the thing says. Right. Slide number 2. So this is basically when you flex on yourself. So max 20 seconds, you quickly flex on them. This is when you guys can, leverage case studies, leverage RSC, leverage, the connections that you have, like all that kind of stuff. And then one of the things that we did that worked really, really, really well, because we had a really irresistible front end offer. And one of the things that, in the beginning, the sales objection that we ran into was like, oh, this seems too good to be true. Right? We're like, fuck, right? What we did is we ended up justifying that by saying, listen, we're doing this, we're installing the system, we're coming in and we're installing the system. It's $5K one time. Our selfish intentions is that, you're going to make your money back. You're going to really love us. And then in about 6 months, when we roll out really high ticket mastermind programs, you're going to want to sign up for those programs, which are going to be a subscription model. That's where we're actually going to make our money. And we like position this 5K as like our front end, low ticket, entry level offer. We made it an irresistible offer, but then we justified the irresistibleness of this offer by saying that we're going to be rolling out bigger and better offers down the road. Obviously, those were optional, and we said those are optional. But just so you know, it's like this is the reason why we have such a ridiculous offer right now. Slide number 3. So we talked about how you own the system. So the main selling point here was instead of renting the system for 24 grand a year, you own the system, never have to pay again. We'd always ask, makes sense? Do you see this working? Why is that? Oh, I see this working because of XYZ. Get them to, repeat that back to you. If they were unsure, I sense some hesitancy. That was like the golden line. I sense some hesitancy. And then what they would happen is like, so let's say you're on, this slide. I sense some hesitancy. Oh, well, how do I know those ads work? What is the landing page? Whatever that case may be, you handle the objections now. Because it is 10 times easier to handle the objections on this slide than after this slide. It's a lot harder to handle objections after you've gone to this slide. Okay, so you're better off handling them while you're on this slide. Slide number 4, our main selling point was high quality leads. And we would say, like, listen, you're not going to get hundreds of leads. Fuck, some days you probably won't get any leads. But the ones that you do are going to be really high quality. Right? And we use that damaging admission to gain trust. So then we say, but they'll be high quality. It appeared more believable. Main selling point, using own system. We target out of town individuals who are about to move into your area with no prior LO connections. Makes sense. Why do you see this working? AI appointment setting, main selling point, set appointments while you sleep. Maximize pipeline through long term. And listen, this is nothing that we'd say to like gain trust, right? I'm telling you right now, the slowest month is going to be month 1. You might not even get a single deal in the first month. And anybody who you ever talked to in the past and is telling you you're going to get a bunch of deals in your first month, they're probably lying to you because they probably are just, really hungry for your money. But I'm telling you, if you do want to do this, like you're not going to get you might not get any deals in the first month, but come month 2, when all this starts to kick in, when the nurture starts to follow up and whatnot, that is how that is where things are going to kick up. And that is why by month 3, month 4, you'll be at XYZ. Right now, obviously, that's just a very high level of it. But using these damaging admissions in the sales process to increase your level of trust that you have with the prospect works super well. The last one is the mortgage mastermind. We would repeat that and say, does that align with your long-term vision? Any questions of that? And this is kind of like the presentation that we had going at the time too. Any questions with that? Yes, no? Alrighty. So then I would get to a white screen. And then that was just like a cue to like hop off. Does this feel as if it might be what you're looking for? Why do you feel like it is? So the funding that you would need to get to that 4 loans per month and give you access to the system is blank. Then obviously shut the fuck up. Like seriously, just shut up. Don't try and start justifying the price. It seems like we covered everything here. Typically the next step would be to give onboarding. This is straight from Jeremy Miner. I didn't come up with this. Just used it and it worked. So I'm sharing that with you guys. Can I welcome you to the Broker family? And that was the sales process that we used. Right now, obviously, there was you obviously get your fair share of objections. These objections that I got. Now I know we're short on time here. I'm going to share obviously this recording. I'm going to share the script so you guys can have more look into it. These are straight off of Jeremy Miner's objections. Literally, like pulled up the YouTube video. He spoke for 10 seconds. I paused the YouTube video. I typed it here. He spoke for another 10 seconds. I paused the YouTube. Like, I didn't come up with this, but we used them and they worked, right? And so yeah, it's too expensive. I need to talk with my partner. So I mean, with that, you guys got any questions?
Did you do any discovery call beforehand?
No, but sometimes the setters got carried away and would like speak to them for like 10 minutes.
How long are these sales calls? Sorry.
That was huge on like the prospect. Right? And back to what Andreas was saying earlier, right? This is not to be used as a script, it's to be used as a framework. Every single time a closer started using it as a script, it went downhill and it went downhill quickly. Right? So if you could kind of sense that it doesn't make sense to say this on the script on the call, even though it's on the script, don't say it. Right? Like me personally, I had 5 words that I had, I would put it on like a note right here and I would just sit with it on my desk, the 5 words. And that was all I would do. And then so the average call was probably 45 minutes to an hour. And then if they were closing, the average call was probably, an hour 15 maybe. to go through the contract and all that kind of stuff at the end.
What if you have a follow-up call and then, you know, do you just skip the follow-up call, take their money and fuck the next guy?
That is a good question because our closers made that damn mistake.
Ah, fuck.
They had a guy who's about to close. Oh shit, I got another call. I gotta go. Right. Have you guys ever heard the story about Alex Ramosi at the gas station?
Yes. Okay, cool. All right, that answers the question.
Does everybody know that story?
Remind us.
Okay, I don't like you could search it up because Alex Ramosi obviously tells the story better than I do, but basically a kid came up to him and like sprayed him with perfume and he's like, "Do you want the perfume for $20?" And he's Alex was like, no, but I'll give you $20 for the hustle. And then the kid was like, and then the kid asked for cash. And then Alex was like, "Oh, I only have a card." And then the kid was like, "Okay, well, let me just go get the payment processor." Mistake number one, always be ready to take payment at any given time. Then on the kid's way to get payment processor, another guy pulled up to the gas station. And the kid tried to sell that another kid. And Alex Ramosi got in the car and walked and drove away. And then the kid finally came running back to Alex Ramosi and was like, hey, I got the payment processor. He's like, "Listen, I'm not going to give you $20, but I'm going to give you a lesson. I'm going to give you there's 3 lessons, but I forget the third one that are a hell of a lot more valuable than the $20, right?" And he was like, "I'm in this car right now because I used to sell like you do, so I get it. But number one, like when I said I had a card, you should have had a payment processor out ready to go. You should always be ready to take money at any given time." And that's like, you guys should you guys should have PayPal set up. You guys should have Stripe set up. You guys should have wire transfer set up. You guys should have all the means of collecting payments set up. So no matter what the prospect says, you can do it, right? When you guys get big, like I would even look into ways of like, getting like ways to accept crypto too, right? Like no matter what, like always have a way to collect money on the call. And then the second thing is like when you have a deal in the bag, don't get distracted, right? Like if you have somebody that you are closing and you have another call, you just no-show the other call. If you have a team, say, "Hey, I'm still in this call. Can somebody take that another call?" If they can't, you just no-show the other call. You close the deal that's in the bag. Sweet. What else we got?
So this is for like, obviously you're running ads with this, like I guess because my at least how I'm doing it now, I'm somewhat framing my intro call and then I'm having them watch the VSL, which kind of explains everything we do so I don't have to waste time on a pitch. So I guess what would be different? Because I like you can kind of more blame them for actually coming on the call because they book through ads, but obviously I'm doing DM outreach. So how would it be different?
I do that too, and like I think the process is the exact same. The pitch is a little bit different because you basically just like kind of summarize what you went over in the video that you sent them before, but like the process itself should be identical. And if you're thinking like, oh, you can kind of blame them a little bit more, like please don't do that because it's not gonna work. They're just gonna tell you to fuck off. So the process is the same. The pitch is a little different. Same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I got something.
Let's hear it.
Oh, I'm sick too, so my voice is all fucked. But so I got the weirdest objection yesterday. Basically, these guys are like 100% in, like they want to do it. But their biggest objection is that they'll pay me and then I basically set everything up and then I don't do any work after that, which is true. Like my fulfillment is super leveraged where I just set everything up and then it's like it's all on autopilot.
Yeah.
But that was their biggest. They're like, we don't want to be basically paying you, $2K a month and you putting in like 30 minutes a week of work.
Okay.
And it's just something I never got before. I don't know how you pay that. Yeah.
Well, I think I've gotten that before. The analogy is like, okay, if you want to have like a consultation with like Jeff Bezos for an hour, how much would you have to pay? A lot of fucking money. Now, if you went with some random guy, probably be like $20, right? So it's like, it's not about the time you put in, it's about the quality of that work and the results you get from it. So if I can get you results and put you in 20 minutes, would you rather go with me or somebody who's going to put in 10 hours a week and not get you any results?
And the biggest, like what that is, that's a symptom of being too feature-based selling. Like they're so like driven, like they're so like, this is the feature, this is what I'm getting and this is what I'm paying for. not I'm paying this and I'm achieving this dream outcome.
Yeah, that's 100% it. Because these guys are like 25 as well, like youngest guys I've ever had a sales call with. So they know like all the marketing stuff and
Yeah.
whatever. And I think they're focusing on like the features and stuff. Because they used to have a marketing company where they were doing like their SEO and whatnot. They're paying them like $1,500 a month. And then they found out that they were really just doing like 1 hour of work in a month, and they had like over 80 active clients. So I think that's where their grudge is.
Yeah.
They see success with the SEO.
What's up?
They see success with the SEO. Like,
No. They said it was all right, but it wasn't good enough. And like with SEO, you're kind of capped too.
Wait,
Like,
Kenan, do
yeah.
you say that they were working with an SEO company or they owned an SEO company?
They were working with an SEO company.
Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. In solution awareness, people don't understand why they ask questions, right? Like when you ask their past things that they've tried, the only reason why, or like the main reason you're asking that is to pre-handle objections, right? For example, if they say like, oh, like for me, like if they say like, oh, I was looking at a state AI, I didn't do it. And I was like, okay, like why? And they're like, oh, because it was too expensive. What objection are they going to give me at the end of the call? It's too expensive, right? And so it's mirroring objections. And so if they said, oh, they were only putting in an hour of work, you have to handle that belief in solution awareness before the end of the call. Because if you handle it at the end of the call, you're screwed, right? But if you handle it in solution awareness and you're like, well, can I offer you a different perspective on that? And then you reframe them around like, okay, well, if somebody can give you results putting in less time, do you think that's a good thing? Or do you think they should have to put in more time to get those results? It's like, obviously, if they can get the results with less time, just do it that way, right? But you need to reframe their mind around that early on, because if you do it at the end of the call, you're screwed.
and also it's like you could just say like, I'm the owner. Like I have people working their absolute ass off for me. So like you don't need to worry about the work I'm putting in. Like I have people that are doing that.
Yeah. I have another call with these guys soon, so I'm kind of just like preparing myself to just because like even after like the pitch and everything, they're like, all right, what's my next objection? But like in a satire way, like they're just trying to find any reason. It's a weird situation, but
They said that to you?
yeah.
Okay. It's a good one.
Dude, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. Well, as always, I'm gonna upload this recording and I'll share all the scripts and templates and everything that I was talking about in here in the chat. Other than that, have a good 2 days, and then we'll do a regular mastermind, no masterclass on Friday morning. I guess
Cool.
Happy New Year. Yeah, there was only like a couple of you guys on the actual New Year's call, so I guess a lot of you guys, Happy New Year as well.
Yeah. Dylan, I keep getting DMs from all these people asking about your program.
Okay, get this. I just got this email. Somebody built a fucking AI bot of me that like you just randomly was like, hey Dylan, I built this bot of you. I went through like every video that you've ever made. Just like built me a bot, and I was like, oh, thanks.
That's crazy. That's next level fanboy.
Yeah. I was like, oh, thanks for that. And they sent me like a loom of like how to use it. And I was like, okay.
Who
Anyways,
the fuck made that?
his name's Jay.
Jay.
AI version
It's
of
also
Dylan.
not.
What?
It's also not working.
He might have given me the demo. Why? It's working on mine.
It's working for me.
I asked what's the
Dylan,
best
you're your
app that you
SMMA
can type
expert.
in.
How can I help?
And is it like an AI photo of me too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you if you're like a
Send me an essay.
What's the best niche?
Dude, this actually sounds like you.
Well, because it takes it from it. They transcribed all my YouTube videos I've ever uploaded.
That's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, I'm 8 minutes late to my call here, so I gotta jump. But have a good couple of days here, and I'll speak with you all on Friday.
Thank you, Dylan.
Cool. Thanks, Adam.
Alrighty guys, well I appreciate you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you got 10x the value in return, and the next steps that you guys could possibly take if you want is to click the link below, because in my free community I host live coaching calls every single week. So once a week, every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, I'll spend an hour answering any questions that you may have within your agency. It's completely free. There's no bullshit fucking sales upsell at the end of it. I guarantee you that. Okay. So I'd love to see you guys in there. Other than that, I wish you guys an amazing day. I hope you guys hit 10K a month. I hope you guys blow past that to 100K a month and, really become the person that you guys, deep down told yourself that you want to be.